It is time to water my succulents, so I thought I'd bring you along today and show you how this usually goes for me. So the first thing I do is take a look at the Succulent Tracker app and I scroll through to just see what plants show they need water. Now, I don't water on an exact schedule because I find that most plants don't need that, but the Succulent Tracker app helps me make sure that I'm not overwatering plants if they look dry or if I think it's been a while since I've watered them or the opposite. So I'll usually look on the watering screen to see what's showing up as needing water. But what I actually do when I'm going through it is I will look at this by location. So I can see the orange here means that these plants will need to be watered in a day or two. This case, yep, this one will need to be watered tomorrow. So I'll scroll through and just see if there's anything that's coming up that needs water. And there are a few things like my propagation tray. It should really be watered probably every 3 days, but the average watering is every 11 because I've been very inconsistent with it. So I'm going to go ahead and set that one as a schedule so that it shows up as needing water more frequently. Most of my plants, though, I just have it tell me whether or not it needs water based on the average number of days since it was last watered, and that's worked out really well. I typically water with this sprayer pump because I'm able to make less trips to the bathroom to fill it up and get more water, but I'll essentially just pick each plant that needs to be watered and soak the soil completely, make sure I'm getting all the way around the edges. And then you can see here there's some water pooled up from when I watered yesterday. And so the humidity probably gets a little bit higher because of that, but I have not run into any issues with my succulents in that way. So these trays are really handy because I don't have to worry about water pooling, which means I don't have to take my plants off the shelf to water them, which is really nice. If I don't have very much that needs to be watered, sometimes I'll use this little squeeze bottle, or if there's something I'm having a hard time getting to with the sprayer pump, then I'll use that. From here, I just go section by section and water the things that need to be watered. So you can see here, I watered this sunrise 4 days ago. This is one that really needs to be revived. It's gone too long without water. So it's helpful to know I watered it 4 days ago. Because it's in this rock pot, it actually dries out really quickly. So I am going to go ahead and water it today. And with this one, it doesn't have a drainage hole. And so I actually fill it up until I can see the water at the top. It dries out, like I said, very quickly. And then once I've watered it, I just go ahead and tap the little circle to indicate that it's been watered. So next up, we have the basil. I'm also going to water my propagation tray today, and this is actually one of the trickiest ones to water. It's just hard to get it totally soaked, and so I'll usually just go over it a few times like this. I should be watering it every 3 to 4 days, so it shouldn't matter if it soaks all the way to the bottom right now, because as I water it that frequently, it'll start getting all the way down and the soil will be completely soaked after a couple waterings. And in case you're wondering, all of the propagation that I do is on coconut coir. So you'll notice this is a very organic looking soil. It's because it's just straight coconut coir. And I like it for propagation because it stays wet longer, which leaf propagation likes. Now it's time to move to the next section. All right, this cactus is one that needs to be watered. And I just try to make sure that I'm getting water all the way around the whole pot. If I just water in one section, then it's not going to get everything the water that it needs. So I'll just slowly put water all over the top and around the base of each of these cacti. Now, when I'm not recording myself watering, I'll usually come in at a different angle with this too, so that I can get it from all directions. But I'll just continue doing this until I'm confident that the soil is soaked completely through. Now, this cactus is next on my list to be watered. And I've noticed over the past few months that it has gotten kind of yellow. And I feel like part of that is because it has been in this pot for years. It's been in there for at least 7 years, I think. So I'm finally going to actually fertilize it. And to do that, I'm going to use this succulent fertilizer from Bonsai Jack. The way to apply it, as you can see here, is just to sprinkle it on top. And in this case, it's in between a 10-inch and 2-inch pot. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on top of the soil on each side. So I just get a few granules in there. So I've sprinkled some on, you can see kind of the little green dots, and then I'm going to go ahead and just water it in and try and get the whole top of the soil wet and obviously soak it all the way down into the inside. When I'm watering, I like to put it on in just a very slow stream. That's one of the reasons I like this sprayer, is because I can control how fast the water comes out. The reason why I like doing it slow like this is it gives the soil some time to absorb the water. Whereas if I just spray it on like this, I feel like it comes in too quickly and it just goes straight out the bottom. So this gives it a little more time to absorb into the soil and not just run straight out. And then I'm also going to rotate this so I can get water on the back. And even when I haven't applied fertilizer, I like to do this as well. Because gritty mix is so gritty, it tends to just absorb the water right where it is and not spread elsewhere. And that's why I like to get water all over the top, on every side, all around. Now I have these 2 coleus that need water on this shelf, and then these 2 newly planted succulents. So I'm actually going to go back, really quick to the water section and show you how to mark these as watered in just a second. With the coleus, I don't add a ton of water. These just need to stay damp, and I typically water them every other day or every 3 days. So they just need a little bit just to keep the soil from getting dry. And this little guy, I'm watering these every couple days because I just replanted them and I want to help encourage those roots to grow. This one is in a non-draining pot, so I don't want to put very much on, just enough to get the top of the soil wet. If you're new to watering a pot without a drainage hole, I highly recommend using a little squeeze bottle like this and actually measuring out the amount of water that you're putting on so that you know exactly how much is going in and you don't accidentally get too much. This one's pretty small, so it should dry out fairly quickly, but if you have a big pot, it's going to take quite a while for that soil to dry out. You don't want to accidentally fill up the whole pot with water. Since I just watered these last 4 plants and they're all showing up on this watering tab, I can go ahead and just press this button and it'll ask me if I want to water all of them. I'll click yes, and now they've all been marked as watered. And you can actually do that from any section. So if we go back to my plants and look at the location here, I can tap this little button and select watering or anything else that I've done. And you can actually change the date from there as well. And then you can select which succulents you want to water or deselect them. But since I already marked all those as watered, I'm going to leave it like that. But I do need to mark this cactus as fertilized. So I'm going to just click this button, mark it as fertilized, and click apply. And now that will show up in the history along with the watering. So now I'll just go through section by section and look at the app, water anything that needs to be watered, check to see if anything else needs to be watered, even if it's not being indicated in the app, because sometimes the averages get off. And then once I am finished up, I'll release the pressure in my little sprayer and I'll be done for the day. I have found that if I'm actually watering every couple of days, just watering those plants that need water on that day, it's so much easier because it only takes me about 5 to 10 minutes instead of if I'm watering the entire plant stand full of plants, it takes me over an hour, sometimes 2 or 3, depending on what needs to be watered. So just doing small chunks every day not only keeps my succulents happier, but it makes it much less time consuming for me.